Welcome to Just Some Points, episode number 9. Every week I'm looking forward to learn something new from my colleagues. And so since I've been wondering what I will learn this week, we'll dive right into it. But before we do that, I want to welcome back Melissa, who was with us in the first few episodes together with Rory. So she always has a lot of exciting stuff to say. And then, of course, we have Tammy with us again. So why don't we get started with Melissa to kick it off for today? What do you have for this week?
Sure. So in the beginning of this week, I was reading a lot about Twitter, and I had no idea that this morning it would still continue to be breaking news that Twitter is starting to label more of the content being published as misinformation or talks about violence or COVID-19 information. They've, in recent months, been really expanding upon these labels and figuring out ways to kind of hide content. And it is kind of gotten a little out of control in terms of some people's opinions, and some people have different opinions on whether they should be doing that or not. Specifically, this morning, they hid one of President Trump's tweets. And he has now vowed to take action against Twitter, legal action against Twitter. So there's kind of this ongoing battle, and it's very interesting to see the different social media platforms and how they're getting involved with it as well. Earlier this week, Facebook said it wasn't their responsibility to tell the users what's misinformation and what's not, what's right or wrong, untrue or true. Whereas Twitter has the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where they're trying to be more proactive. So I'm very curious what happens going on.
It's very interesting. I follow this too, and I'm happy actually to bring it up, because I actually think if they don't start doing what Twitter has been doing, they're actually following a double standards. You know, we as a marketing company, we are exposed to this, let's say, fact checking for a long time, because advertising we run on Facebook or on Google or any of those channels, we have to adhere to certain rules. And if they feel we're stretching the truth too much, they literally don't run our advertising or the advertising of our clients. Yeah. So I don't see where the difference is between, fact checking advertising and fact checking, just right out wrong lies, basically. So I think, this is actually a good step in the right direction to all of our good.
I actually would like to jump in. So one of this, or I guess my topic that I was going to bring to the table today was talking about the AI systems that companies are using in lieu of employees. Facebook actually laid off some of their employees when all this happened, and actually started using their AI systems even more. So here's a funny thing, Facebook actually blocked the do-it-yourself on how to do-it-yourself face mask, how to make them yourself. Then they came back and apologized for that, because they had no clue that they were actually doing that till it kept being reported. So to turn in what Melissa is saying, so many of these companies so many companies are investing in artificial intelligence to do their customer service, to do their marketing, to respond to their customers, and also to tell their customers what they want. And as great as that sounds, you still have to have that personal touch. You still have to have that person out there saying, okay, my customers like this. Artificial intelligence is great. In 5-10 years from now, it will probably be even better. But 1 in 4 companies actually, when they have installed or started using AI systems for marketing, have actually seen a decline in sales, because it takes a required skill to know how to train your AI or to tell your artificial intelligence program what to do. And I think Facebook and Twitter, hopefully Twitter is actually not using an AI system, that they're actually having people monitoring personally what it's saying. Whereas Facebook actually they scaled back and actually said that they're going to have more monitoring of their systems. With that being said, because
I,
how many times have you seen
I,
a post that shows blocked when it shouldn't be blocked?
That's right. You know, I think it's fine to use AI as long as you put the next layer, a human layer on top of it, you know, where the AI identifies, but then you have human curators or fact checkers or whatever. And, you know, to say, you know, to do what the president did, in my opinion, is nonsensical as a PR stunt, because there's no legal basis for what he has been doing. It's just a stunt. But nevertheless, the discussion is a good one and a healthy one anyway. And again, from my perspective, having been exposed to us being exposed to this now for years, I welcome this because I think it makes the rules fairer and more transparent.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. And you brought up a really good point about the review system. I wonder how this is going to change that process going forward. Because, you know, usually with social media, you can get things approved within an hour or so, even sometimes faster. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it changes the review process and just overall advertising policies as well, if it's going to carry over these labels going forward and expanding those labels into advertising policies.
I agree with that. And also, I do not let the argument count that it's too much content. As long as these guys make so much profits and at the same time lay off people in times when we have too many people on the street, it is appalling and really not right to see that they exclude their responsibilities from, well, it's too much content, we can't curate and review all of that. Where, yes, you can. Maybe you take less profit. Maybe you employ a few more people that then are, you know, have a salary and can pay the mortgages, and you do actually a better job and provide a better service to the community. Mm-hmm. And so I just don't let that count. You know, now if they would be, you know, barely scraping by, it would be a different story, but that's not the case.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's kind of related to it, what you guys touched on. I want to talk about this. I'll show you that. You know, it's clear, right? You know what that means, right? So forget about the formula. This is a formula.
I should have paid attention in math class.
This point, well, you didn't learn this in math class. This formula is about dwell time. Dwell time is a measure and an indicator that is more and more important for SEO. Now we are doing search engine optimization for our clients and for us now for 12 years or so, something or even more, even longer. You know, back in the days when we started, you did keyword stuffing and all of those things, and then, you know, Google realized that it's about content, about good content, but then we support this, and there's such an evolvement of evolving process of SEO over the years, and companies like us, we're always hunting after them. You know, what's next? To how I think in 1 year, 2 or 3 years ago, Google had 380 algorithm changes. If you just, you know, let that sink in, 382 algorithm changes in 1 year, and the impact on your search engine optimization. But what this formula is actually something that LinkedIn implemented. They realized that their search engine optimization, or actually their showing and exposing content was based on old rules, and that they had to refocus more on dwell time. And dwell time is ultimately a mix of time spent on content and time spent on the screen and how you interacted, what type of actions you took on that screen. And that ultimately basically flows into a formula that then is being used by AI. You brought up AI, who then is trying to serve up better content or more relevant content. So this is something that's not new to LinkedIn. It's just LinkedIn just recently implemented that for them, but it's it's in existence actually for quite a while. And we have started actually realizing this too quite a while ago, that it's not just about content, it's really about the content, what it does and what it drives, and does it really engage? Does it actually provoke action with the user? And that's really what it's all about. You know, there were times where people and companies, they just wrote content for search engines, not really for end users. I think those times are pretty close to be done. And I read one article about dwell time, and it ended something along the line. Actually, it's here. It's ended something along the line that the people that obsess over it, if you obsess over the questions of readers that readers might have, your dwell time is likely to increase. And what that means is, don't just steam ahead and write something because you have idea, but write something where you think first, what does a reader really want to know and want to read, and then write towards that. So I like that idea of, you know, people that obsess over this question, what somebody really wants to read. Those are the ones that we win in this game.
I agree, hands down. Because actually one of my professors said in school that always write your paper that you're answering the questions that your reader is going to ask before they've asked. And that's how I think SEO needs to be written, or articles need to be written. You need to answer the questions that you know your customer is going to ask before they even ask it. Then it saves time.
That's right.
It just goes to show that the content on the page is only part of the equation. It's also the user experience of your online presence, your, you know, accessibility on your website, and being able to get to where you need to go as quickly as possible before you lose the attention of your user, which is, you know, all of those things are what we consider every time we build a website, and it kind of just all comes in hand all at once.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point you bring up, Melissa, because, you know, if you think, we just went through remember the landing page redesign for one thing that a campaign that we are starting, and how much we obsessed over that, and we came up with different versions and then narrowed it down now to a version. We put a lot of, it was not just a simple landing page. It's about not just the content, it's about how do you engage people with the content. Right. So I agree with you. It's about the experience. So, okay, cool. Very good. Do you have anything else for this week?
I'm good.
No.
No? Okay. Actually, one thing, since we talked about Facebook, Facebook also just announced that they're buying Giphy, the biggest GIF website. They bought it for $400 million, and but they said they want to keep it as a separate database. And more and more, they're worried about antitrust issues, which in my opinion is completely valid. Antitrust rules have to be more enforced, in my opinion. If the rules from the 70s and 80s, when they broke up the Bells and the AT&Ts of the world and whatever, still apply today, and the rules are still the same, it's just they're not being applied. If they still would be applied today, a lot of those companies would not exist the way they exist today. But no. I thought it was interesting that they were really quick to say, you know, we're not integrating it, we're not tracking, because Giphy at the moment, they don't have a tracking pixel. They do not track what's happening with their GIFs. And now people are being afraid that the GIFs are being integrated, and Facebook is, you know, basically having another layer of information about people. And it's just, in my opinion, it's almost, you know, obsessive how they think about, you know, getting more data. I think it was you, Melissa, who brought up this week that they're also, I think they want to introduce a new account, right?
Yeah.
Where you don't have to have, what was that?
Yeah, it was actually funny that you mentioned it, because you just kind of triggered a memory. But Facebook announced a new product that they're going to start launching called Catch Up, where you don't even need a Facebook account. You just need to give this app access to your contact list on your phone. And it's basically the Facebook's intention is that you kind of go back to regular phone calls, not just like video calls or text, anything like that. But they believe that the reason why people don't phone call anymore is because you don't know when someone's available. Whereas like if you go on Facebook, you can see when someone's online. So it's a matter of, it's like an app where you mark yourself as available or online. So people know, oh, hey, I could pick up the phone and call them, kind of thing.
Wow.
But
Wow.
it very, very clear that you don't need a Facebook account. It's very, like it's a product of Facebook, but it's not related to the Facebook social media app. It's something completely separate, which is exactly, it seems like what you're saying with Giphy is they're trying to kind of separate their entities at this point.
So would that be...
But ultimately with the goal to grab more information, because, while I believe them that they might not integrate Giphy right now until a year from now and nobody pays attention anymore, or 2 years from now, but ultimately their goal is to get more information.
Exactly.
Well, and okay, so back to the Giphy program. Think of what this is going to do to retailers that have built their companies completely on social media. Facebook is aware of how much activity. So I think it was last week we talked about Facebook is launching stores that you can buy directly from Facebook. You no longer have to go to a website. You no longer have to go to anything. You can buy directly from Facebook. So you can't tell me that they're not going to be running these numbers of items that people are paying to promote their stores on Facebook, where you don't have to have a website anymore. You can't tell me that long term they're not going to be grabbing this data to say, okay, this is a huge selling point, or this is a trendy item on our Facebook. Why aren't we doing it with Giphy? I think, is it Giphy? So anyway,
Not Giphy.
Okay, Giphy. Okay, because let's go back to Amazon. Amazon started with the platform to sort of help people in their garages sell their items, all of that. Then what happened is once they brought all these stores online, then Facebook came up with their, they actually invested in the inventory. They sold it directly. So you can't tell me that down the road that Facebook isn't going to be doing the same thing with their new platform. That it will probably be Amazon's biggest competitor.
Yeah, it's all about the data. It's all about the data. My big issue is, and in my opinion, I've always been a proponent of breaking them up because it's those are trusts, and we have enough laws in place that allow them to do that. But the biggest issue I have, while they grab more and more information and collect more and more data, they share less and less, for example, with companies like us. If we look at the data we as a marketing agency had available for the benefit of our clients 10 years ago, 5 years ago versus today, it's basically we are flying, in certain areas more blind and just have to rely on them optimizing everything for us.
Right.
Versus in the past, we could actually apply our own thinking about onto data that we don't get anymore. And that is just wrong, that they just keep the data. If they would share the data with everybody to use for their own businesses and business models, I would probably have maybe less of a problem. But the way it is right now, there are monopolies and trusts that have to be broken up.
I totally agree.
Okay, with that rant, I think we can go on the weekend. And
Exactly.
we just completed our episode 9. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. I certainly did, as every week. And see you next week.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.